So as we're starting to open to truth, we start to bring the attention more to the source of what we are, because it becomes very clear that the things of the changing world are not what we essentially are. Because you start to see that there is something at the core of what you are that is not changing, not coming and going, has always been there, is there now, will always be there. You start to sense, feel, directly perceive this unchanging nature. It is kind of still, it is kind of immovable, it is timeless, unchanging. So you get clear on that. You get very, very clear that I am this mysterious intelligence within that is unchanging, and that everything else cannot really be what I am. It comes, it goes, it alters. So you're starting to pull and retract your attention away from those things. You're disidentifying from those things, not associating with those things anymore. You start to instead begin to associate what you are as something more intimate, this unchanging, mysterious nature. Really, it is wordless. You can't really say what it is, but you can sense it. You can get a sense of it. You are it, essentially. So the attention starts to go within, especially with self-exploration. You are noticing and drawing the attention deeper and deeper to the source of what you are, to the source of all thought. So you're giving attention. Now we know that where attention goes, energy flows. This is the power that each being has, the power of their attention, where they put their attention. Where attention goes, the energy flows. If the attention is in the mind, identified in the mind, and focused on what you would call external objects through the mind, then that's what takes all the attention. That is what grows in your experience. That's what magnifies. But if the attention draws deeper within, that's what begins to magnify. That's what begins to grow. And really, this is what all spiritual paths or spiritual practices are ultimately aiming to bring about. It's to draw your attention within to the very source. It's just it might use something else in the meantime, a kind of bridge to get your attention a little deeper within, but not yet quite at the source. For example, you might bring attention to your breath. You notice the breath, you go with the breath, the rising and falling of the breath. But what is it that is watching the breath, underneath the breath? What is it that can be aware of the inhale and the exhale, the deep breath, the shallow breath? The breath is moving, the breath is changing, but what is it underneath that is aware of that change, that it itself is not changing? So then you go deeper than that. You say, well, what is it that is aware of the breath? Can I give my attention towards that? Then you might start to pay attention to the mind, the activity of the mind, the thoughts coming and going, different belief systems, different patterns of thought, the story, the drama, the plot line in the mind. And you say, who is it that is aware of that? What is it that is not a thought that can be aware of a thought when it comes and goes? So you start to pay attention to that. So you're drawing, each time you're drawing the attention in deeper and deeper, almost like layers of an onion. You go deeper and deeper and deeper. Once you touch the source with that attention, the source of where you are looking from, the source of your intelligence, the source of where you are viewing the whole of the phenomenal world from. Once you touch that source with your attention, that's when the magic happens. That's when it starts to come to the forefront. And what goes into the background is the mind, is the person, is the story. I think it was Jesus that said, Satan, get behind me. Satan is like the ego. It's the person. It's the conditioned, the limited, the false self. Get behind me, ego. Get behind me, person. This is what is happening when a being is starting to draw their attention deeper within towards what they truly are. They're starting to see, I am not this person, I am not the mind. So you're getting behind the person and the mind, so that then the person and the mind gets behind you. And you come into the forefront. The source comes into the forefront. You see? The saint Neem Karoli Baba, the famous saint, he said something very, very profound. He said, the saint keeps their attention on the seer always. The moment they are thinking of themselves, they have lost sainthood. Very powerful statement. In other words, when your attention is in the mind, thinking of yourself as a separate person, a personal story, your ambition, where you think you're going, what you think you're going to achieve, what you think you're going to become, where you think you've been. When your attention is in that story, personal story, you have lost sainthood, because you've gone now into the restricted, the limited, constricted state of consciousness. You've lost now the expansive, the infinite. You've lost sainthood. You've lost the godly intelligence within. But when you keep the attention at the source of what you are, you attain sainthood. So as you're opening more and more to truth, you start to recognize that the attention is best served to, as much as possible, be at the source of what you are. And even if you're engaged in activities, and you have to obviously give attention to those activities, you find that you're able to still keep some attention on that intelligence, on that seeing pure intelligence beyond the mind, at the same time as doing the activity that you're engaged in. There's a kind of mastery to that, almost a skill to the attention. This is the power that each being has, the power of attention. Where do you put the attention? Is the attention lost on changing objects, temporary things? Is it lost in the story of the mind? Or are you able to keep the attention within, go deeper and deeper? Say, what is aware of that? And what is aware of that? And what is aware of that? And then once you really get a sense of where this true intelligence that you are is, you can always just bring the attention and kind of gaze in that direction. Will you find what you are as an object? Will you find what you are in a particular location? Will you find what you are as some kind of particular entity? These are all questions that you yourself must come to find out by directing the attention towards that, to your source, by saying, what is it that is aware of the mind? What is it that is aware of the breath? What is it within me that is unchanging? What is it within me that has always been there since I was a young child, a teenager, and an adult? This is the investigation that a being starts to have as the opening more and more to truth. They're becoming really clear about what they are and what they are not. They have that power of discernment to say, this is illusion, this is truth. And in clarifying that, which is a separation of that, right? You're separating the chaff from the wheat, so to speak. You're clarifying, just like butter can be clarified into ghee. You're separating the illusion from truth, or truth from illusion, whichever way you want to look at it. You're separating that to become really clear. This is what I am. This is what I am not. And now can I give attention more to what I am? As you give attention more to what you are, you will begin to watch how it flowers and blossoms, becomes more constant. This is the way to begin to embody the truth of who you really are. Sometimes what happens is people will have a temporary glimpse of what they are, some kind of fleeting experience. And then they say, I can't get it back. I lost it. But then they don't give attention towards it anymore. They allow their attention to go back off into worldly things through the mind. Essentially, in the story in the mind, because really there is no worldly things apart from the mind. The mind is the world. The story is the world. So what happens is a being allows themselves to give attention back to the story again, back to the person. And then that becomes magnified, and before you know it, it feels like you have lost contact with the source of what you are. Now, that glimpse that you had is now just a past memory, faded off in the background. But you always have the power of your attention. And so the question is, where will you put the attention? Bring the attention back to what you are. This is the power of the questions of the exploration. A question directs your attention in a certain way, in a certain direction, and that's what is powerful. It's that what moves the energy in that way. Where attention goes, the energy flows. If the attention is in the mind, in the person, in the story, then that is what grows in your experience. You find you're just in the middle of this personal story, the ups and the downs, the highs and the lows, the duality of that. But as you begin to retract the attention away from it, back to your source, to the source of all thought, that which is underneath the mind, behind the person, as you give attention to that, that now moves into the foreground. The person now shifts into the background, and now things begin to flower. And now you're embodying that truth more and more. You become established in what you are. You find that the person and the ego and the stories are far away off in the background. They don't disturb you anymore. You are undisturbed as the source of what you are. And it all comes by the power of the attention. So as the being is opening to truth, this is what they'll start to realize. They start to realize that my attention is powerful. And wherever I put the attention is where the energy goes, is what becomes magnified, is how I begin to embody the truth of what I really am.